I think you guys are making a big mistake not hiring me. You need to meet me and talk to me, and you need to give me a job. So essentially, it was just that one LinkedIn post from Rohit that started this journey, and it's been like the most amazing growth journey so far. If you're going to look at your customer as a god and you as some unworthy being who needs to sell something to make a living, it's never going to work. So I think even Dad, when things were really tough, he still went to each and every customer as an equal. So I think that's what helps you to grow, and you need to bridge that gap.
Hello and welcome. This is Puneeth Suraana and you are listening to Galata. With you and I today, we have somebody that has done a lot of interesting stuff from a really young age. He has been tinkering around startups from as early as like 12 to 13 years old, tagging along with his dad, going to conferences, meeting people, doing internships, paid internships at around 15, and has been in the trenches of startups for a really long time. And from the last 4 years, he's been the founding member of a really interesting company that I understand very little of, but I try and explore it on this podcast. So please join me in welcoming the founding member of the Centro and the host of Fintech Quotient, Raunak Dembla. Raunak, welcome on Galata.
Thank you so much, Puneeth. It's such a pleasure to be on this show with you, and really looking forward to the conversation that we are going to have today.
The usual first question I ask my guests is, what were the conversations around the dinner table when you were growing up? You already know this question was coming.
So, I mean, this is interesting, and for me, of course, I've had the privilege of having my father be in the startup world from the time I was in school, right? So, a lot of the conversations with him was around him giving me a sneak peek into what's happening in the corporate world. So it used to be a lot of sharing of what's happening there. He used to, whenever there used to be conference calls he used to work at Just Dial. So whenever there would be conference calls, he would kind of get me in to listen. And after listening, he would ask me, Acha, what did you understand? Right. So I used to keep picking up cues here and there. A lot of the logic or the reason behind they do something, I used to be able to listen to it, and I used to be able to get some insights from it and then tell him kya chal raha hai. And he's been a fantastic guide in terms of always asking me, what do I want to do, what are my plans, what do I really want to work on, and helping me achieve those. So it's always been, okay, what do you want to do? Cool, let me help you achieve that.
Oh wow.
So for me it's always, and this goes to pretty much as far as I can remember, since the time I decided to be in the business world, these have been the conversations. So it's always been, okay, what's happening? Read the news, figure out some article, what happened there, why is this happening? You need to, and he used to keep coming and telling me, hey, you know what, although you want to do something around the business world, you need to know coding. It's a great skill to have, you need to learn Excel, So I think all the things that he understood in his journey, that these are skills that he needed to have, he came and told me immediately, hey Raunak, you need this. Of course, me being me, a lot of the things I didn't do. I was like, why should I learn coding, right? I don't want to be a techie. But today, I mean, with some of the experiences that I've got, I do understand what's happening when I speak to developers. So I'm not completely lost. But had I known coding, it would have definitely added some amount of value. But I know enough of the basics to have great conversations, whether it is with my internal teams or whether it is with my customers. So that worked out really well for me.
So those were the conversations you're having as a kid? Like
Yeah, pretty much. From the time, I mean, if you were to think about it, from the time I was 15 or 16, I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur or I wanted to be in the business world. And that was very clear. So since then, he had been priming me to, pick up understanding of what's happening with different sectors. Of course, way back in 2012, I think the biggest buzzword at that time was e-com. So everybody wanted to start something cart, right? So from those days, he used to take me along with him to attend Microsoft Accelerator events. And this was like literally the first wave of startups that came out of Bangalore. So I remember there were a lot of Ravi Gururaj was part of Microsoft at that time. Before I think Thai happened later. So I've seen them talk about 2013, I remember cloud became a big buzz. Everybody was like, no, cloud is the next big thing, big data. So I used to attend a lot of these events, talk to the founders, understand what are they building. A lot of these startups today have become big, and one of the biggest names that I met at that time was Xterra, right? So he was part of the Microsoft Accelerator program, and I understood, you can build a business around ticketing, right? People will buy tickets to events and you can build the platform, and then everybody knows his journey, right? So Santosh has gone on to do so much in this space. So I think that was the first wave where I started getting exposure. So way back from 2012-13, I've been talking about all of this.
How old were you, 2012-13? I know you're aging yourself.
I was 2012, young. I was 18.
You were 18?
Yeah.
How did you feel as 18-year-old surrounded with techies and VCs and did you understand these words already? Were you like finding your way around the water?
So I think that was one of the biggest advantages that I got way back in 2012 when me and my peers were sitting and we used to go to college and we used to learn whatever. After college, I used to get to meet these people. I used to get to understand what are they building, and for me, it was just piecing different pieces of the puzzle, right? Okay, e-commerce mein, this is what's happening. So there was this whole wave of let's do subscriptions, let's do this. So I was able to literally see what's happening, what's moving in the market, where are people really interested. And I was able to understand and have conversations with some of these founders. I don't know, today when I meet younger folks, I always feel, I don't know if they'll understand what we are doing. But at that point of time, I did understand what was happening, and there were a lot of very patient people who took time to understand or help me understand what they were doing. So, kudos to them, being founders, being entrepreneurs, running their own business, but having the patience to help a 18-year-old boy understand what they're doing. It was very helpful for me, at least.
So they would take the time out and explain to you what they were building or what they were doing, and that helped you out. Wow.
And we used to attend these pitches. So in the pitch, everything is revealed, right? So I know, I knew what an elevator pitch was.
How did you get into the pitch? Because it's usually a closed door thing. Or you
tag along? So I think that was literally, from 2012, I remember, 12-13, I've been exposed to a lot of this. I did my first internship in life in 2011 when I was 15. And that was the first time I earned money. I earned a stipend of 5,000.
What did you do?
So there was this company called Solution Symphony, which I'm sure everybody knows the story. So
it had been our platinum sponsor.
Kalera.
Huge shout out.
So Kalera, before they were called Solution Symphony, and my father was advising them. So during my 11th and 12th break, right, so some holidays, Dad told me, what are you going to do at home? Go and intern. And he put me into Solution Symphony.
This is the 10th standard holidays?
11th after 11th and between 12th.
Okay.
So I was 15 and a half. And I said, okay, I'm up for it. He told me, you're going to get some money at the end of it. I don't know how much, but you're going to get something. And I was like, cool, this is my chance. Let me go and earn some money. And I ended up going, and Ashish and Aniket on my first day, they were like, hey, listen, you know what? We'll figure out what to do with you. But abhi ke liye you sit and understand what we do with a bunch of people. So, and in fact, interestingly, all these people are still doing different things in the ecosystem even today. So I first met Ashish and Aniket, and then they put me on to Faraz, who was leading sales for Solution Symphony. So I sat with Faraz.
Total rock star.
Like, Faraz, what do you do? And he's like, okay, we do SMS and we do web development. And they used to do web development way back in the day. So I was like, cool, let me understand. So then I went and sat with a designer, because he said everything starts with design. So you go and sit with the design guy. So I said, okay, what do you do? He showed me, hey, customer tells me I need a website to do e-com. So I build a template and then I give it to my engineering guy. Then I sat with the engineering guy, I didn't understand anything. So that's where I was lost. Like, okay, cool, designer designs something and then they give it to the techie and the techie builds it, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. So what is this called, this process called? He said wireframe. Okay, cool. So literally my understanding of these processes started from there. So then they told me build wireframes for a few companies who are talking to us. And I'm pretty sure they knew nothing will come out of it, but then they said, hey, build it. So I used to sit with Microsoft PowerPoint, and I used to wireframe. So I did that for a couple of weeks, build wireframes for different platforms, Choco Cart, right? So like e-com platform to buy all sorts of chocolates. So like, okay, theek hai, so how do you segregate chocolates? Milk chocolate, dark chocolate, whatever, different varieties of chocolates and different brands. Like, okay, cool, either filter aayega brand ka, either filter hoga different types of chocolates ka. So, and then put a sort by blah, blah, blah. So I knew that, okay, this
like
is your
dashboard.
Exactly. Just do that 1 page, 2 page, give it to the guy. Like, what do you think? Like, hey, cool. I mean, your colors are a little too, I mean, every designer is very finicky about the color palette. You're like, your colors are too strong and overbearing. And like, this is supposed to be a Choco Cart, right? It has to be brown. But you're like, no. But that was how I started. Then they said, oh, okay, cool. Why don't you now get into sales? So do cold calling. So I was given a list of 250 companies, and we had a landline at that time. Pick up the phone, dial everybody, and they told me your entire goal in the internship is to set up 5 meetings for us.
Out of this 250 numbers?
And I still remember, I think somehow, I was terrible, but somehow I ended up cracking St. Martha's Hospital. That guy said, Aja, we'll meet. I was on top of the world. So I said, you're taking me for this meeting, right? Like, you're not going to go alone. I am coming with you. So went on the bike, met the guy at Martha's Hospital, and he was very clear. He said, look, this was in 2011. We've completed 125 years as a hospital and we're doing fantastic work. Our motto is to send this message that we are the best in so and so categories to the public of Bangalore. What can you do for us?
As an SMS?
Yes.
Okay.
So that was the deal. I again don't remember what ended up happening, but I did this. I did a lot of cold calling, sat with the sales guys, understood how they call. Because the first thing is people, at that time, there were landline numbers of the receptionist of the office. So you have to call her and convince her to make you talk to the guy. So you have to go through her. There's a gatekeeper. So you have to convince. How do you convince? How does a 15-year-old boy convince probably a receptionist who's getting 30 calls a day to let you in? Right? So it was very interesting, but I think that journey, I don't know how much value I was really able to add to the company, but it exposed me to what was to come in my life. And life comes full circle. So after the exits at Solution Symphony and Kalera, Shivam, Vinay and Faraz, who were my first mentors when I started interning, and my dad was mentoring them.
Yeah, somebody's barat's going on, guys. Don't worry. Just enjoy the background.
And life comes full circle when Shivam, Vinay and Faraz started Upsparks and invested in Decentral. So this is one of the most interesting stories of how, a 12-year cycle, or it was not 12 years, but 9-year cycle kind of culminated with them coming on board as investors at Decentral. So pretty interesting story. But that was where it all began for me as a 16-year-old boy. So that's why when I was 18, I was really able to have better conversations with founders.
Yeah, because you could relate. You already had a lot of knocks on the school of hard.
I mean, it was not hard. I would probably say it's a disservice to say it's a hard knock in life, but
but this is the sales calls.
No, I mean,
How many handcuffs you have had in a day?
I remember the first time I got shouted at. It was so personal. Like, how can this guy shout at me? I'm just doing my work, right? And that's when I think I remember very clearly. And I used to go by bus. I didn't have a mode of transport.
To Koramangala.
So go to Koramangala in bus. And I remember that day, throughout the entire bus ride home, I kept on playing this incident in my mind. I'm like, why does this guy shout at me? Why? Like, I just called and said, sir, can I talk to you about this? He just shouted. So that's when I went to my dad and like, Papa, this today guy shouted at me. And he was like, okay, it's fine. I mean, it's a part of your job. The fact that somebody shouted at you means you're doing your job. Right? And I was like, what is he saying?
It's a good sign.
Yeah. And I was just not able to see that. And then he's like, listen, there are going to be people who will take your service. There are going to be people who will not answer your calls. There are going to be people, and he explained that thing to me saying people will shout at you. It's just a natural course of this job. And I said, I don't want to do sales if this is how it's going to be. And he's like, but again, you're looking at only one thing, right? He's like, do this for 2 months, come back to me and tell me what you think after 2 months. But that was how it was for me.
You know, it's unusual how it has opened you up as a young boy, and now I see you networking and connecting with people, and I realize you flowered in this kind of internship. So you did like a series of internships by the time you were even 18. That is unusual.
Yeah, so I did this internship, then I did a bunch of internships at college. So which is where I really understood that, and I hope this doesn't come to bite me back in the future, but I understood at that point that I did not want to go down the corporate journey, where I join a large setup and work my way up the corporate ladder there. So that was something that was very clear to me, because obviously my first experience was in a startup where they told a 15-year-old kid, here's a list of 200 numbers, call them, right? From there to my next internship in my life was, I believe, TTK Prestige, where I understood that, there's a marketing team. Within the marketing team, there's a guy who sits and looks at catalog. There's a separate guy who looks branding. There's a separate guy who looks at channel and distribution. And it was so fragmented, right? So I sat with all of them and I understood, what do you do? And I realized that not one person does everything. And that was in sharp contrast to my first internship, where I went from learning wireframing to development and sales.
Everything on the same floor,
right?
in the same corner of the office.
So from that experience to this saying, just focus on one topic, right? That was very restrictive to me. Then I interned at a very selective company, Goldman Sachs. So
selective company?
Yeah, I mean...
You mean you selected them?
No.
What do you mean?
The process was
the college.
In college, it was a summer internship program.
Yeah.
So they come in, they say,
hey,
look,
they bring a truck.
And they're like, look, we have internal audit, we have operations, we have blah blah blah, tech. We didn't have tech because I studied in a business school. So I was like, cool. I applied for 2. I got shortlisted for 1. The other one, I didn't make it through the interview. But they start with 300 folks. They give you a fancy presentation saying, this is Goldman Sachs, this is what we do. Blah blah blah. You're going to like really come in and it's fancy, swanky office. You're going to sit and learn about trading and all of that. And as a 19-year-old college student, that is the life, right? That they're paying for you. So like, cool, let's go for this. And then I apply. From 300, it goes to, I think, in 150 in the first aptitude test. And then there are 3 rounds of interviews where they ended up selecting 7 students from my college, right? So they go from 300 to 7.
Like 2%.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, cool, man. Like, I was like, cool, I made it. Uske baad there's a background check, and I was like, oh, I did this, I did that. There's literally a very serious background check that happens. And cool. And then we get in. And then we do reconciliation, right? So that was my first experience of like, oh, okay, in a large company like Goldman Sachs, where I thought I'll be sitting and probably figuring out some sort of stock analysis, something like that. I'm sitting and doing trade reconciliation. And that was disappointing for me individually, because I had a different picture in mind, and what I got to experience was completely different. So a lot of these experiences, although it was a fantastic experience, and I think the Goldman internship really is the best program that I've attended, where they give you, it's complete free pass on the floor. So for example, they know they've selected the sharpest kids in the batch, and they're like, cool, go and learn. So I got that freedom, right? So I quickly realized in 2 weeks that this is not what I want to be doing, reconciliation. So I spoke to my reporting manager, who was the VP of the team, and I told her that, hey, listen, this is the problem, and she was happy to understand it, and she said, do what you want, right? You have 8 weeks here, make the most of it. And we're supposed to do a project after 4 weeks out of the 8 weeks. She said, you want to pick it up now? Pick it up now. I told her, why don't you give me what problem statements you have on the floor or on the team, and I'll try and solve it. And they were happy to do that. So then I said, I'm also going to go and talk to every other team on the floor and understand what they do. And she said, go ahead, be my guest. So that way they were very flexible, right? They allowed me to do what I wanted. So I went and spent a lot of time with other teams, understood what each team does. So I knew that there is a fixed income ops team, there's an equity ops team, and there's all within Goldman Sachs Asset Management. So there's a global investment management team, there's a research team. So all of these teams are sitting and they all end up reporting into one huge umbrella entity. So I learned a lot of that. But then I realized that I don't personally want to be in an environment where I spend 9 years in one team doing one element of that work to become a vice president of that team. And that was not the direction I wanted to take my career in. And by then I had a very strong entrepreneurial streak or wish to be an entrepreneur. So that kind of helped me decide very, very easily that I don't want to go down that route in life. So then startups were the new thing.
You were just piecing through different parts of at least the floor that you saw and figuring out who does, and like it's like a puzzle you're getting together just to like understand the business.
Yeah. But again, not everybody got that opportunity. It was only because I was vocal about my dislike of the work I was doing that my manager said, "Okay,
you weren't just vocal, you also gave them, okay, you know what? Tell me the other problem statements that you have." Which is unusual.
But that was my nature. I think by that time I was very clear. It was already like 4 or 5 years since I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that, okay, listen, I want to solve problems. I don't want to be a cog in the wheel where I just help move things forward. It has to be some value add that I bring to the table. So... Yeah.
Unusual for a 18-19-year-old to like go up and ask for a problem statement and be given like a free floor. Go.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. But I think that's the thing. And my if you were to ask me today, 10 years ago, how did this happen? I think I was not afraid of
asking.
Yeah, either asking or pissing somebody off because.
You already had pissed enough people off on the sales call.
I was like,
you met your quota.
So I'm like, okay, you know what? What's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to have to do this work for another 8 weeks. Right? But if I go up and I talk to them about this, I might get what I want. So the odds are in my favor of it working out. So I said, cool, let's do this.
Very unusual.
So
and when somebody gets like a free rein in an office, you almost invariably end up spending the most time with somebody that you like and somebody that is doing the work that you want to do.
Absolutely.
So were you able to find people like that in these different internships?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I still remember their names even to this date. There were a couple of folks. One was a gentleman called Puneeth Monga. He used to handle the entire research part of Goldman Sachs Asset Management. Puneeth, I don't know where he is now, but
Puneeth, you have to complete the circle by investing in decent.
Yes.
so please contact Madi.
Puneeth Monga was that man for me who I spent a lot of time with. There was another gentleman called Mahesh, and his story was very interesting. So he randomly, so when I used to do this project work, I used to sit in a different bay. So my entire team used to sit in one bay. I used to sit in a different bay.
A bay is like a set of cubicles?
Yeah, it was like just one line of workstation. So I used to just move to one behind, which was empty. So I had the whole line to myself. This man came and sat next to me and he was working. A very quiet man, right? And 1 or 2 days, we just sat next to each other and worked. And the third day, I was like, hey, why don't I introduce myself to this guy? Very mysterious guy. So I go up and I'm like, hey, I'm Raunak, I'm here, part of the internship and blah, blah, blah. What do you do? And he tells me, oh, I'm working on some project which I don't remember what the project he was working on right now, but he's like, oh, I'm like, okay, cool. Well, tell me about yourself. How long have you been at GS? He's like, kuch hua. Then he told me, before I joined Goldman, I was at Nomura. And before that, he was at Lehman. And I was like, oh, were you at Lehman in 2008? And I was like, yeah. I was like, dude,
that's
okay,
the worst question
you are going to sit and tell me what exactly happened.
Inside story.
Yes, tell me. And he sat and he explained it. He was like, yeah, from what and he was a risk guy. That's the best part about it, right? So Mahesh, risk guy at Lehman, seen everything go down at Lehman in 2008. And he's sitting and telling me the entire story of what happened. I'm like, okay, fantastic. I was in touch with Mahesh for a long time after I graduated as well. He helped a couple of my friends get some referrals into Goldman, did all of that. Very, very nice gentleman.
Big shout out,
Yeah, Mahesh.
Come on, Galata, and share it as well.
Yeah, so Mahesh was that guy who kind of gave me. And the interesting thing why I was so interested in his story was during my college, one of my projects that I did was explaining what actually happened in 2008. So how did the world come out in a terrible manner on September 15th?
This was before the internship or this was after the internship?
This was way before.
Way before the
So, like for example, I think September 15th of 2008, I think if I remember right, is when shit hit the fan. And that was a Monday.
Lehman hit the fan.
Right?
Yeah.
So on September 13th or 12th, everything is fine.
Yeah.
And there's just some murmur in the boardroom that, something is going to go wrong, and nobody was willing to buy that theory that something will go wrong. And then all of a sudden, Friday night you clock out of work, everything is fine. Monday morning you come and the asset is 90% down, right? So that was very interesting for me. So Goldman came out unscathed, and it is only because they have the absolute best minds working.
But they had Warren Buffett. They gave a sweet deal to him.
Look. From what I understood,
it's his reputation that they were able to see.
Yeah, that is true. But nobody else was able to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
There's only one Warren Buffett.
Yeah, it's just... So, from what I understood, right, the reason Goldman, like you said, the 2% acceptance rate is because they are very finicky about who they hire. They hire the absolute best brains. And when you're in, right, they give you research to make you superhuman. They invest in their employees, and even though it's an employee sitting and doing reconciliation, right? Today, when I look at it, maybe that first you start off as an analyst, and then you become an associate, and then you become a team lead, and then a VP. That process of being an analyst just prepares you for the next role. That's it, right? The associate role which you do, an analyst, you're there doing it for 3-4 years. It's a long time, only to become an associate. But once you become an associate, you have a bunch of analysts reporting to you, and then you become a team lead, and that is preparing you for the VP role that you get. And they actually invest in you. They give you the best research. They have got separate research teams sitting and doing. They predicted who's going to win the Football World Cup. So 2014, there was a Football World Cup going on. I got a research report statistically proven why a particular team will win. So that is the kind of things the research team does for fun there, right? And they circulate this research report across the org. So if you are interested in football, or if you're interested in learning game theory, or how statistics can play out in predicting what will happen in the World Cup, they're doing this. So they have the best minds, they've got the best infra, they've got the best people helping them. And that is the reason there is probably daylight between Goldman and the next few banks.
They take care of the people, they invest in them.
And one of the funniest things they did in the orientation, I still remember and I laugh about it to this date. So even for interns, this is open now. If you are a Goldman Sachs employee, and let's say there's a flood, Bangalore gets flooded, you have to just call, there's a central helpline, you have to just call them and they'll send a boat to you to pick you up. Right? So that is the level of care they take to ensure that their employees are safe, their employees are learning, they are growing.
See, trust me, a boat ride in a flood in Bangalore is smoother. There's no bumps. There are no samadhis on the road. You can go through.
But that's what I've learned, that if you have to be the best, you have to get everybody on your team to be the best version of their self, right? So a lot of these things I understood from Goldman Sachs. Of course, during those 8 weeks, I was like, "Ye kya hai? I don't want to be doing this." But when I was like, okay, you know what, my purpose in life is not to work in a corporate, it's to probably build and play a very pivotal role building a company. So I've learned what I had to learn from there.
I'm glad we did this bit on Goldman Sachs because it will help Decentro. Or actually, it will actually give clarity to those who are young students who are listening to this podcast. If you can, do apply, and if you get in, drop a note
absolutely.
to Raunak and he will be happy to catch up for a coffee or something.
No, these are the kind of internships that everybody should do. Like, even though I did not like the work I did, I've been very vocal about it to all my colleagues and friends, saying that if you can, right, even they come to MBA colleges, it's not just undergrad, so they pick up the brightest minds, but just figure out a way to get in and you're going to have a great time.
You wouldn't believe, Raunak, the entire Galata has come about because of an internship. I really lucked out and got to intern with this gentleman called Seth Godin, who's like the marketer. And as a college kid, I was with him for 45 days. And that's where I learned podcasting, and I started podcast right out of my MBA.
Exactly.
And you see, this is where it all started, and now it's grown up to like his camera, my camera, and my MacBook.
I think
internships really matter.
That you just need to place that seed in your mind. And I think one of the things that I was thinking about, because I'm doing a couple of podcasts over the next few days, one of the things that I was actually thinking about was, how do I put this right? So I think the biggest superpower that people have is the people that they know.
Yeah.
And it's only I would not say only, but people play a huge role to help you to become what you want to become.
Yeah, relationships run the world.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you, all the high profile guests on Galata, over 80, have not come by me. They've come because somebody else has put a call or put a mail or put a message saying, listen, you got to get Puneeth and give him some time.
Exactly.
And that's how doors have opened up. All the sponsorships as well.
Yeah.
They've all opened up only because somebody else liked what I do and then they
wanted to help you.
Yeah.
So I think that's where when I look back and when I think about, there are so many people sitting with so many dreams and ambitions, but the only thing that's holding them back is probably imposter syndrome, because they feel I am not qualified to do this. Oh, why will somebody listen to my podcast? And I want to tell them, it's not your job to figure out why will somebody listen to your podcast. Your job is to make a podcast that people will want to listen to.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? Like, let people give you a reason to say no to you. Why are you rejecting yourself?
I so agree. And 20 is plenty. I always say this, that when people ask me about analytics, how many people are listening?
Yeah.
Initially, I was really upset. The first 6 episodes, I was like, hardly anybody is listening. So I asked Seth.
Okay.
Seth, go and listen. There are hardly any people listening. And look at these YouTubers, man. 1 million, 4 million. And he said something so beautiful. He was like, listen, 20 is plenty. If you have 3 founders listening and 2 entrepreneurship professors listening and 5 students that are interested in entrepreneurship listening, and you have 10 more, I mean, that is plenty. And he's like, do you have 20 people coming to your house every week to listen to you? No, right? So it's great. Keep doing it.
I think it's very, very timely advice, because I'm exactly in that situation at the moment.
Yeah.
Because you know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm
tell to the audience about the podcast real quick.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a very passionate person about fintech, right? And for me, I've had the opportunity over the last 4 years to meet and interact with amazing founders who are building cool companies in fintech. And they've braved a lot, right? They've braved a funding winter, they've braved harsh regulations, they've braved tough markets to really go and work in. So I want to be able to bring their stories to people who are interested in fintech. And I also want to demystify fintech, because everybody knows, it's probably a very glamorous space to be, but I want to help people understand what's actually happening in fintech, right? So we want to do a lot of things, and I just launched my first few episodes, and this week I released my 3rd episode.
Finally.
Fine, right? Exactly. So after having worked on it for a long time, I'm like, cool, let's do this. But I'm exactly in that situation right now, and I'm like, what are these analytics, right? And I also realized that every time I log into YouTube's content studio dashboard, the more views I get and the more videos I do, it's unlocking more analytics for me. It's a beautiful journey, right? When I first logged in, it was just key, itne views, itne viewers, itne impressions, this is the watch time, that's it, subscriber. But now it's like, there's an advanced button that comes up, and then you click on it, like, whoa, there's like there's attribution, and there's so much that you can learn from. And I think that journey helps you as you go along. But I get what that feeling of what am I doing this for? But I guess the only thing is you have to stick with it, right? You have to kind of
I agree and
go forward.
You know, the interesting thing was I had 2 backlogs in my MBA.
Okay.
And because I started this podcast and I was recording meeting founders, I'd met like some 30 founders, did 30 episodes. But by the time I was in my final year.
Oh, wow.
And I had 3 best friends, all girls, and they were like the toppers. Okay. And the only reason I was passing the other subjects was because of them. Half an hour before the exam, they would tell me, Puneeth, read this, write this keyword. So they all were like the toppers. And they were struggling to get a job. They were sitting for 2 to 3 interviews with one single company, and then again, not going to crack it. And I had direct founders or CEOs offering me a job, saying, you know what, you're already doing this, I love this, come join us.
Yeah.
And I had like 7 offers sitting on the table. Yeah. And the unusual thing is that podcast became
The connect.
The connect. Yeah.
Absolutely. And just to add to that, it's only been 3 episodes that I've done, right? But there was this person who I knew through my Decentro journey. Way back in 2020, we connected. I've been in touch on and off, probably once a year. But now I sent him like the link to my podcast. And he reached out saying, Raunak, I've changed. I'm not doing what I did earlier. Now I'm doing something else and I want to use Decentro. Okay, cool. Let's do this. So then there's another guy. So I've had 3 to 4 people reach out to me with something meaningful only because of this podcast. And the podcast is a reason for me to send them a link. And that's also a reason when they respond saying, hey, good job. I'm like, hey, what's happening, man? What are you up to? How have you been? It's been a while. And it's just the bridge that I'm able to use to connect with people.
Yeah. It's an excuse for you to just send them something and remind them.
Say hi, right?
Yeah, and say hi.
Yeah.
But you haven't name dropped your podcast. So can you name drop
your
podcast?
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's called Fintech Quotient. The idea is to help people to improve their Fintech Quotient. So,
increase your FQs, guys.
Yeah.
So back to you. I want to understand. We will probably come back to simplifying fintech. However, I want to understand, how are you so good at meeting people, connecting with them, staying connected? I realize podcast is now a way for you. But what was it before the podcast? How did you stay connected? How did you network?
I think, to be very honest, it's a very simple answer. I think it's just my personality or it's just my nature. Right from childhood, I've been great with talking to people. So when I was a kid, I used to get praised in all these family functions that, oh, this boy talks to kids his age, he talks to even the older people in the family, right? So even if it's an 80-year-old person in the family, I used to sit with them and I used to talk to them and I used to, oh, how are you? What's happening? So I think that my nature was to connect with people right from childhood. And that's just me. That's just my innate personality. There's nothing I've done to work on it. Nobody kind of shut that down. I was just allowed to be. Right? And I think that's just evolved into being this way. And the one thing that I always look at is, I remember people, I remember what they're doing, and I just, that stays in my mind. So
you remember the names, their faces, and what they do?
If I don't remember names sometimes can become difficult, but I still remember what they're doing. But now, I mean, one of my bosses, I don't remember who, somebody whacked me on my head one day when they asked me, tell me what's happening in this lead, and I didn't know the name of the guy. And then he said, Raunak, if you're doing sales, you need to know the name of your guy, or your POC, the name of the company, everything at the tip of your fingers. If I wake you up at 3 a.m., you need to be able to tell me that. Never forget. And somehow, like, I just switched on the thing in my mind. Thankfully, I've not forgotten names of people I'm working with. But yeah, I mean, I remember what they're doing. So it always helps when you meet them next, you understand what's happening, get a progress. Hey, you know what, you're doing something, there's a guy I know doing something similar, I guess you should connect. Whatever. It's a relationship is like a fire. You need to feed that fire for it to grow. So I have always had that, and for me it's come, to be honest, really naturally. So it's just been a part of me, and that's the trait. And there are people who are born with it, there are people who are not born with it.
Yeah.
But then there are people who are blessed with insane ability to focus, insane ability to really work without
like your co-founder.
Right. And it's just people are different skill sets. Right? There's a Jonty Rhodes who's a fantastic fielder. There's a Jadeja who's like a great fielder. Probably he dives and the ball sticks to his hand. But then there are probably people who, whatever you do, it doesn't work out, right? So sometimes it's just it.
Did you ever get to work with your dad?
Yeah. If you were to look at the last 9 years of my life, I graduated, around the time I graduated, my dad was starting up. So I spent 3 years of my life working with him. And that worked out really well because, like you've seen in the school and college days time, I was able to do whatever I wanted. So I've done project management where my wireframing skills helped me. I've sat and worked on developing and deploying projects for our customers with the tech teams. handle what I now call go-to-market, but at that time I didn't know what it was. Did go-to-market planning for a lot of the companies we were building the tech for. Some of the companies I really liked, I actually went and did sales for them. So I did some amount of calling sales. I did door-to-door. So there was a B2B business that we were developing for SMEs in Bangalore. So I wanted a proof of concept. So I've literally gone door-to-door and without a product, without a deck, convinced shop owners and MSME owners to work with us. Got small checks as buy-ins, 3,000, 4,000 bucks as a buy-in, saying, give me a post-dated check. Whenever we're ready, I'll deposit this check, but I want this check as a buy-in from you. So collected about $1.5 lakh of buy-in from these business owners. So that helped me go door to door and talk to the guy. There was one very interesting guy who called me and spoke to me every day. Wasted 1 hour of my time.
Every day?
Every day. At that point, I understood, there are people who will talk to you for 1 hour and then they will convert and then they will not convert, right? And how do you recognize who is this guy? Because in my mind, this guy is going to give me a check. And after wasting 4 days, 1 hour each, he said, I'm not going to work with you. But I was like, why did you talk to me for so long? He's like, I'm doing my work. I wanted some entertainment, right?
Oh, so, damn.
Yeah, so there are amazing people you will meet in the journey. But I did all of that. So that
how do you identify people like that now? Like a Chobu filter.
Yeah, but I was 100% sure. And every time this guy would spend time with me, I was like, this guy is going to give me a check. Right? And on the 4th day, he said, to hell with you, man.
How did you get to know? Like you insisted on the closing.
Dude, how much will you talk? You want me to sit and talk? I'll talk to you. Give me a check now at the end. I'm not here to be your friend. I want business from you. Give me the check. And he said, "Kyun karu?" Kyun ye hai? Nahi. You've been sitting with me for 4 days. You see how many walk-in customers I get. Why should I give you money? That conversation naturally went forward to, are you going to give me the check or not? And then he's like, no. And then I was cool. Thank you very much. And I walked out and said, this guy I will forever remember. His shop is still there in HSR. And now I go to HSR to sell APIs and not an SME platform. And every time I pass by that shop, the guy still sits there, and it's a reminder for me of how
4 days
people will waste your time to get things, to get some kick. And it's fun. There's the beauty about life, right? I think there are teachers who come along at different junctions. So I spent 3 years. Those 3 years really helped me understand how to build a startup in a very deep manner. And the best part about that journey was all the companies that they were building were not VC funded. So they had to really have some sort of real business going through for them. So there was no money to go and do advertising campaigns. There was no money to grow the team. So everything had to be done. I had to sit and do wireframing. I had to sit and do go-to-market. I had to go and sell. I had to do everything myself. So at that time, it felt like a struggle when I see companies. I remember I used to be fascinated by Razorpay. There's a company that came up called Roadrunner. So I went to their office to do a partnership. I saw their office. There are coffee machines, bean bags, amazing, young people sitting and working everywhere. And I was like, ye life hai yaar. VC funding is the shit, right? And go back to my office and I'm like, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that, right? So after a point, after doing that for 3 years, the bug finally bit me, and I spoke to my dad. I said, listen, all this is great, but I want to really see how to build something and scale it up and follow through that journey, because my dad was doing 10 things and I got to work on all 10 of them at a surface level or basics, but then somebody else was growing that business. So I said, no, I want to do that. So
what was the working equation between your dad and you? What's working with him like?
So at that time, it was very blurred lines. So I think both probably he and me didn't know how to do that. So the relationship you need to have separate relationships. So you need to have a father-son relationship at home, and you need to have a employee and boss relationship at office. So it kind of blurs the lines a little bit, and I probably didn't manage it as well as probably others do, because thousands of people work with their families, right? So there is a distinction. But it is hard because you're, like you said, dinner table conversations. The minute you go home, You see your boss. In the morning, you come out to have a cup of tea and your boss is sitting there and you've not done something the previous day, you get asked, you get questioned. And from like 8 a.m. you're like, oh, tell me what's your plan for today. So there's no boundaries. Right? So you're living with your boss. So it becomes difficult to handle. You need to find the right balance to do it. I did not, but we need to figure that out.
or start on your own.
Yeah. So that's what ended up happening. So in 2018, I joined this very fascinating retail tech company called Perfuel.
Yeah.
So in 2015, I had done summer school at London in London School of Economics. So there I saw any Tesco, Sainsbury's, or any of these supermarkets. There's a bay of self-checkout machines, right? So you have 10, 15 machines where you can go, pay for what you bought and walk out. And then there are only 2 human billing counters. So like, great, this is the future. And I saw Perfuel bringing self-checkout to India.
How did it work? You pretty much scan the QR code.
Exactly, right? So you have a mobile app. We partner with a retail outlet or whatever. We connect with their ERP. And then you scan the QR code. We fetch. It's just like how your billing computer. It's connected to the ERP. My app is connected to the ERP. So
your app scans the QR code.
Exactly. So what your billing machine does with the scanner and the computer, my app can do that. So that's what it was. I was super fascinated and I was like, hey, this is the company I want to work for. They're building new technology, something that's not there in India.
It's still not there in India, fam, right?
Yeah.
They've tested it out.
I'll tell you about that. So probably I think we'll just have to come to Decentral a little after this, but there are very interesting stories from Perfuel.
Yeah.
So my first thing was to apply to them on Angel List. And I get a call, I get a invite to come and interview them. And I said, "Okay, Adav, let's do this." So they said, "What do you want to do?" And one of the things that I had done a lot was sales. So I said, "Hey, I want to do sales." I said, "Fantastic, give me a CV." I go for an interview. And that interview was one of the most interesting interviews of my life. So this guy, for some reason, did not like me from the get-go. So that interview was just, you remember the shop guy who spoke to me just to have fun? This guy did that with me. He was like, "Aja beta, aaj tere class lenge." So he just sat and he's like, found ways to screw me over in the interview. And after everything, he tells me, "Raunak, you can never do sales in your life. You are not built for sales."
Says it on your face.
Yeah, he told me this. Right? And this guy he claims to be one of the earliest employees of Zomato, set up Zomato and all. Big shorties come here. And he's been given this entire vertical to handle in Perfuel, which is not self-checkout, but we'll come to that later. And I tell him, "Buddy, you're wrong. Right? No person is incapable of doing anything in this world. You tell me to build a rocket, I'll figure it out and I'll build a rocket." And he laughed at me. He said, "Acha, aisa hai na? Ye, sell me this pen." So you know how a sell me this pen conversation is going to go. So I tried it for a minute to see if he's giving me a chance. It was not. I said, "Cool, man. Give me a number. I don't want to take his name. Give me a number, and I'll tell you. I'll send an update to you one day. Give me a number." So I took his number. I said, "Cool, man. All the best." And I walked out of that interview. I knew it's not going to happen. And I was pretty disappointed because this was a company I really wanted to work for, and this was on around Raksha Bandhan time, so in August of 2018.
Yeah, around this time.
Right. So. 6 years ago. So I go back and I'm like, "Ye nahi ho raha, let's look at a new company." And we had all gone to Ooty for Raksha Bandhan. So on the way back, between somewhere after Tiffany's, we stopped at Tiffany's for a quick break. And then on the way back, I sit with my dad. And the conversation is, "What do you want to do?" Similar conversation. So there I'm like, "Hey, there's this company, Perfuel, interview went bad, but I really like it." And this is like 9 p.m. on a Sunday night. So my dad is like, "Okay, do you really want to work there?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Okay, I'll tell
Why
you
did you want to work there? Because you got rejected in the interview?
No, the tech was, it was a really appealing company.
How did you discover this again? On
Angel List.
On Angel List?
Yes.
Okay.
So dad says, you have the founder's number. I said, the founder's number is on the website. So at that time, one of the earliest versions of Perfuel's website, Abhinav's number was on the website. So like, hai number uspe. He said, "Call him now." I said, "Are you sure? It's a Sunday night." He's like, "Call him now." So somewhere between where Biddi or Maddur or wherever Maddur and Bangalore on the highway at 9 p.m. on a Sunday night, I call up Abhinav, and Dad tells me what to say, and I say it. And the conversation was, "Hey Abhinav, I had applied. I had an interview with XYZ person. He rejected me. I think you guys are making a big mistake not hiring me. You need to meet me and talk to me, and you need to give me a job. Tell me how we can do this." So that was literally the conversation we had.
That was literally
that was I'm not making it up. That was the conversation, and I had 0% conviction that it would work. I thought this guy is going to shout at me and tell me to get lost. Turns out he said, "Great, I'll come tomorrow."
So wait, you picked up the phone, you called him, and
I tell him, "Your guy doesn't know.
Are you free? Are you available?"
Nothing. I'll get to the point because I don't want him to say no to me at any point.
Okay.
Right? I want to reduce him talking. I just want to say what I want to say. And I was convinced that this won't work. So I was like, why do I give him a chance to reject me again, man? Let me just say what I have to say and get out of that. Abhinav, you know what? I did this. I interviewed with this guy. He does not know what he's talking about. He rejected me, but you're making a big mistake by not taking me on your team. And you need to take me on my team. He's like, "Yeah, there's another co-founder called Yogesh. Come and meet him." So, long story short.
No, long story long. This is a podcast.
Dude, so there were 3-4 interviews. And at the end of it, for some reason, every interview ended up getting cut short.
Cut short.
For whatever reasons.
So you got an interview with him first, and then
with another
he put
guy,
it through the
right?
system again.
So everything happened. Then the second guy interviewed. He had to literally leave that interview midway. Then another guy called me on an internship for the interview on a call, and that call also had to be cut short. So every single interview that I did was just getting cut short.
Yeah.
So then I called up the guy. I said, "Listen, you know what this?"
You called him up again?
No, the guy who interviewed me last.
Okay.
I said, "This interview thing is not going to work. For some reason, it's not working out so far. Let's just do this. I'm going to come because I was not anyway in another job or something. I was working with my dad. I said, I'm going to come and work for 1 week with you. And what is my go-to thing? Give me a problem statement. I'll solve it for you in 1 week. And at the end of 1 week, let's touch base again and figure out whether we do this or we don't do this." And I'd done a similar thing with another company which didn't work out. But this Purple, I was very sure that I wanted to do. So, cool. एक हफ्ता I work for free. You have nothing to lose. You have a smart guy coming in working on your problem statements. Let's see how it goes, right? And at the end of 1 week, what have I done? So they had self-checkout division. They had this Zomato guy had set up a new vertical at Purple, which was cafeteria ordering business.
From the app?
Yeah. So you're working at Infosys.
Right.
You know that during lunch break, there's going to be a long queue for lunch at the canteen. So place your order, you get it accepted. They'll ping you when your food is ready, you go and collect it. And there was a third vertical which was going on, which was a subscriptions vertical. They called it subscriptions, but it was newspaper delivery, milk delivery, car wash, all of that at apartments. So within the first week of me not even being an employee on roles at Purple,
looks like I'm going to show off now.
I told Abhinav, this vertical makes no sense to me. I don't even know why you're doing it. It's operationally intensive. Your employees are not happy. The customers are not happy. Kyun kar rahe? Shut it down. He said, "Okay, shut it down." I said, "What do you mean, okay, shut it down? I thought you will do the dirty work." He was like, "No, go. Be my guest. Do the dirty work." And dude, I'm not even kidding. I did not have an offer letter from Purple, and I was firing a team of 6-7 people there.
Wow. Talk about
it. Right, and I'm sure they would have hated me for it, all the guys there. And then I remember we did that. Then there was this guy who was brought in to lead that vertical, and he moved, I believe, from Chennai or Hyderabad to Bangalore. So then we go down to the ground floor, and he's having a smoke. I don't smoke, so I'm sitting with him. I can see it on his face. He's boiling. And he's like, "Shit, this vertical is shut down." He moved his family from there. His daughter was moved to a school in Bangalore and all of that. And here's this guy who comes in, not even an employee, and he literally just shut down the entire vertical. And I'm like, "Okay, BK, what are you going to do?" And he's like, "I don't know, man. I honestly, my mind is blank. I don't know what to do." And there I am standing and like, have I done the right thing? Because it's not, I'm not even part of this company,
business.
right? Why am I doing this? But then I was very clear that that business didn't make sense. And Abhinav said, yeah, you've convinced me, go ahead and do it. So that was literally how it started. So at the end of it, I went back to Abhinav. I said, Abhinav, now do you think I have a job? Or like, is that since the vertical is shut down, kya kare abhi? He's like, no, we'll figure out something. They gave me an offer letter. They said, Ajav, you handle operations for us. So one thing I told Abhinav right from the get-go was, listen, I am not your everyday employee who comes in and works for you. I want to be an entrepreneur, so I'm using this as a way to learn how to be an entrepreneur.
Like a launch pad, yeah.
So you need to help me with that. And he was very understanding and he did. So he said, okay, here's a problem statement. Here's this cafeteria business that we've launched. We need to launch it in Bangalore. So you need to be on the ground at cafeterias of different corporate offices. And you need to put processes in place, train the team, deploy everything, handle entire operations here. So this Bangalore is yours, le lo. So I said, okay, de do. And now the interesting part comes in. So this guy who rejected me in the interview, right, the first time.
You're working with him now.
No. So he was in Hyderabad handling Infosys because they cracked Infosys.
Right.
So he was there and he was there for 2 months. The guy moved his base to Hyderabad to launch it. And he had no idea that I had joined. And I had done all this to get into the company. He told me, you will never work for Perfume. And then one day I had to coordinate something with Vikas. And I ended up calling him and he didn't save my number, right? So I had his number, I called him up, I got my work done, everything is done. 2 months later, after I've worked in this company, everybody in the company knows about Raunak. Oh, there's this guy handling all of this. Everything is cool. Vikas comes back to Bangalore for the first time. And I still remember this. So the sales guys had spoken to him about me, founders had spoken to him about me.
Everything. Your reputation preceding
Raunak, everybody knows
Raunak tha.
And then we walk in and we were in this IndyCube on Richmond Road. So there's a small car parking area outside. So Vikas and 2 sales guys are standing outside for a smoke in the car park area. I come in, I park my car, I get down and I see Vikas and he sees me. And that is when it hits him that Raunak is this guy.
Oh, damn.
And then he starts laughing. I was like, kya baat hai, aage? I was like, yeah. What do you know? And I mean, he didn't stick around in the company. That's the twist. So he ended up exiting in December of that year for whatever reasons he has.
Right.
Nothing to do with me. But that was how it started, man. But every 3-4 months, I used to go back to Abhinav and say, hey, here's what I've done. This is the process. This is the SOP. I'm done with this work now. I want to move to the next. So he said, okay, you've handled the launch. Now you don't do launches anymore. You train your team to do launches and you manage launches across Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad and Pune. I said, cool, let's do that. Then they said, okay, this is done. We need to handle operations excellence. So you handle central operations for all over India and manage this. So I think the 7th, 8th month to the 10th, 12th month, I did that. Then I said, okay, ye bhi ho gaya hai, now what next? And that's when they said, okay, I was also handling retail operations for self-checkout, but that was not too much of my bandwidth. We had a point of sale device that we had built, handheld device, cloud connected, damn sleek, damn sexy machine. So they said, hey, this is doing well. And we raised like a decent amount of funding, and the investors wanted us to go and expand this to Southeast Asia and Middle East. So out of all the people in the team, they had asked me to do that expansion for them. So that's how I ended up doing self-checkout. I ended up doing point of sale expansion to Southeast Asia. So Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, and then Middle East. And guess what? No travel there, right? Budget nahi hai. Sit in Bangalore, do the sales.
Oh.
And cool. So I got a Skype connection with her. So the best thing what I did was I used to first. This is an interesting thing, right? So it's calling with my +91 number. Nobody's answering calls.
Yeah, Indian guy. Yeah.
I go back to Abhinav and I'm like, yaar, itne sare calls kiye hain. Nobody's answering the call because it's an Indian number, I'm guessing. He said, acha, kya karna hai? So then I thought about it. Like, I could have taken a Singapore number. I could have, because Singapore is a central region. I said, no, let's not do that. If we are taking a foreign number, let's take an American number. Because I remember there was a podcast I had heard where the gentleman said, I think it is Suhas Gopinath, I'm not too sure. So the scene was, you go to them as an Indian company, right? And people are going to take you with a pinch of salt. The same thing, you just go and position it as, oh, we are an American company and now we are entering India. Right? So there is a huge change in the way people perceive you. So like, cool. So now I know what to do. I'm not going to take a local number in Southeast Asia. I'm going to take a +1 American number on Skype and I'm going to call. The cost was a little higher, but people answered calls.
And they took the meeting.
Yeah, I got meetings. So anyway, it came back to being, I have to do 100 calls a day because I have to set up a lot of meetings. But that gave me an understanding of how do you deal with. So you call people in Malaysia and there are these datos and datuks, which are equivalent to the Padma Shris of India, right?
Okay.
So for example, there's this gentleman called Dato Amir Ali Maidan. So he's some big shot in Malaysia. I still have his number on my phone. He was one gentleman. I was like, oh, he is such a big deal. Why will he answer his calls? He answered his calls. He spoke to me. He gave us a meeting. I think it's called Maidan Mart. He runs a company in Malaysia called Maidan Mart or something like that. So people started giving a chance to us. Because I was like, hey, listen.
But you still had an Indian accent.
Yeah. They know I'm Indian. The +1 is a Trojan horse to get in.
Oh, wow.
Right,
it's an unusual Trojan horse to have.
It's just a hack to get.
It's like the first impression.
I'm making 100 calls a day. Out of the 100 calls, if I'm only connecting 30, it will help me to connect to 50. Right, that just is improving the area of work for me so that I can get better conversions. That's it.
Yeah.
So
it's improving your edge.
Pardon me?
It's improving your edge.
Exactly, right. That's it. So it's just a way for me to get connected to people. Then after that, it's me. I can't fake an accent or whatever, and they know it's an Indian company, but they're willing to take a chance because they look at Indians as people who know technology, right? So the entire Middle East and Southeast Asia looks up to us, so they don't have a problem. It's just answering a call that's the problem,
right?
So we did all of this, and this whole journey is what led me to kind of get in touch with Rohit when he was ideating Decentro. And
I want to pause just for like 3-4 minutes and understand how do you go about sales? What are your insights on sales? Because then we can get into Decentro and elaborate.
That's a very interesting point. So for me, the way I look at sales, right, is okay. Actually, let me credit my dad for this. So dad has a very simple way of looking at it. So everybody, whoever it is in the world, there is a framework which applies to them. And he calls it the CDO framework. So C is what is your current situation.
Okay.
So let's take Galata for example, right? Puneeth, you now want to do your 100th, 200, 300, 400, 500 episode.
Inshallah.
You need to have guests lined up for your podcast. You need to have a way to promote your podcast. You need to grow your listener base. Right? So these are the things that is important to you. So your current situation is X. You will have a desired situation that you want to get to. So I need to understand what is that. What is the D? Right. So what is the goal you want to achieve?
Yeah. With Galata, it's 100 episode by 15th of August.
Right.
And 100 5-star reviews. There are 30 5-star reviews on Spotify.
Essentially, you want that.
100K listeners.
Yeah. So now I know where you are. I know where you want to get to. So then the next question to you is, what is the objection or what is stopping you from achieving that? So then probably because you're putting in effort, you're doing all of this, what is it that is actually holding you back from doing it? And that is my job to understand that. Then if I come and sell you a service that will help you to engage your listeners to give you a rating, and I say, hey, listen, I'm going to charge you $30 a month for this, you would pay. But if I just came to you and tried to sell you anything without understanding who are you,
so you understand the current scenario, you understand where they want to go, and then what is stopping them,
and solve those problems for them, and you will always get a sale.
Interesting.
So,
but how do you realize amongst all the problem which is the key problem, or how do you?
That's where you really that comes with experience, is what I've understood. Because today I can do it far easier. It's almost like second nature for me, versus when I started this. Because when I remember this, so way back when I started doing sales, my dad had given me a few inputs. One is CDO. Ask everybody what is the CDO for them.
Everybody.
Everybody.
You mean
pitch.
customers?
Yeah. Every customer
how do you ask
pitch.
What are the questions?
I'm like, acha, like, how many customers do you get today? Acha, you're getting 40. ठीक है. Sir, what would that number be which would make you feel ki, I don't need to worry about my business anymore? Can you kind of kick your feet in the air and sit back and relax and think that, okay, you know what, I don't need to worry about my business today? You can't. Okay, what do you need that number to be for you to do that? Oh, you need 200. Great. Do you have a plan, sir? Do you have a plan to go from 40 to 200? No, you don't. Can I give you a few ideas? Right. And then some will work, some will not, but it's an iterative process. So you do that with everybody. And then there's also another thing, right? Before you go in for every meeting, every call, every interaction with the prospect, play out the thing in your mind. And this again applies to a lot of the AquaGuard sales, the credit card sales and all of that. It's not so much applicable to me today because I do the job I do is a doctor's job. I have to be prescriptive to your problems today, right? But if I was selling a credit card, what I would do is play out the interaction in my mind. What do I want to achieve from this interaction? I'm spending half an hour with you. What do I want to walk out of that meeting feeling like? So I want to walk out of that meeting feeling like I've got the deal. So play that entire interaction out in your mind 2-3 times before you go into the meeting. So you know, okay, I'm going to say this, he's going to tell me XYZ, I'm going to reply with ABC. At the end of it, I'm going to get him to agree to take my product, to give me a shot and to get a buy-in, and I'm going to go with some sort of a buy-in from him. Play out the situation in your mind, you're visualizing it and you're putting out a message to the universe.
Before the call.
Yeah, and you're preparing yourself with that energy which is ready for you to receive that, right? Because I can go in and I can be like, you're the 5th guy I'm meeting today, nobody has given me a deal, you give me a deal. But I can also come into that meeting saying, dude, I am today ready to sit and make you go from 40 customers to 200 customers a day. Right? You're more likely to work with the second guy. So the energy that you take to the customer makes a big difference. So mentally visualize the whole journey, have the frameworks in place to talk to them, and there are ways to handle objections. So typically when it comes to pricing, right, you will always negotiate. No customer is going to give you a deal without negotiating, right? But when you negotiate, take the pricing, put it aside and talk about things that are important to that conversation. Like, hey, you want to get 100 5-star reviews, right? Puneeth, what does 100 5-star values mean to you as an individual, right? Can you put a price to it?
Can I put a price to it?
Can you put a price to it? You cannot.
I don't know.
Because it's a very significant achievement for you.
Yeah.
Right? So when you understand that, okay, for example, let me go back to that example of the shop, right, in HSR. Why does that guy want 200 customers to walk into his shop every day? Why? When you understand what's driving him emotionally, it is कि यार उसको security चाहिए. Right? It is because he wants to live a life, he wants to travel, he wants to be able to afford to buy the new shoe, the new hand gadget or whatever he wants. Now, when I paint that picture for him, so let's say you're the shopkeeper, Puneeth, and I go to you and I say, hey, you know what, you pay me 15,000 rupees a month, I'm going to list you on my platform and I'll give you 100 customers a month. You'll be like 15,000 zyada. If I say 10,000 also, you'll say 10,000 zyada, right? But if I come to you and change the entire thing upside down and tell you, Puneeth, can you put a price on you taking your family to the mall? Your son wants to buy a new pair of shoes. It's 15,000 rupees for that. You're able to say no. You're able to buy him that pair of shoes without saying no, without planning, without thinking. You need to buy a new phone for your business because you're using a 4-year-old phone. So you want to buy the latest iPhone. Your wife wants to buy a bag, right? And let's say you take your family out for a movie and then you do shopping. And you're able to buy your wife that bag she wants. You're able to buy your son the shoes he wants, and you're able to buy the phone you want. Can you put a price tag to that feeling of satisfaction you will get from that? Can you?
No.
You cannot. But by getting 100 customers every day walking into your store and buying, I will be able to help you to achieve that lifestyle. Right? So what I'm giving you is a means to get that lifestyle which you cannot put a price tag on. So 15,000 is my price. Do you want that lifestyle or not?
Interesting. So you're selling the lifestyle, selling the ultimate benefit.
Yeah, you're selling the, exactly right. You're not selling the platform. And everybody has this. and it is not so applicable to me today in Decentro.
Yeah, but
Right?
in general,
Because I'm doing something very, very specific.
Yeah.
But in sales, every emotions. Okay, so here's the thing, right? Decisions are driven by emotions, fear, or greed. So you can scare people into buying. Why do you buy? Why do you buy insurance? Right? We all buy a life insurance. We all buy a health insurance because we are scared something will happen today, and we don't want to be in a negative situation. Why do you buy? Why do people walk around spending 40,000 rupees to buy a pair of shoes?
Yeah, they spend 40,000 per pair of shoes and they wear it.
Yeah. Why?
Okay.
Because
The friends who buy mine, they don't wear those. They just
like why do people buy iPhones?
yeah.
Right? Why it doesn't justify spending 1 lakh, but you buy an iPhone because it gives you access to an elite club of people,
Right.
which signifies a social status.
Yeah.
So buying an iPhone is a very emotional decision where you want acceptance from some people, right? Why do people buy a Mercedes instead of a Skoda?
To get that Goldman Sachs boat experience.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you compare
Smooth suspension.
you compare Mercedes and Volvo.
Yeah.
Volvo is probably a better car in terms
And
of
more safety, yeah.
right? But would you pay 60 lakhs and buy a Volvo, or would you pay 60 lakhs and buy a Merc?
Yeah.
The answer is very clear, right? So people don't value utility. People want status. People want, so it's all decision making boils down to you sell on an emotional factor, you sell on a fear factor, or you sell on a greed factor. I think this, and this also plays out in the stock market. So in the stock market, you should never do things out of emotion, fear, or greed. So largely speaking, this is what it is, right? So I've realized that when you're pitching, right, you need to really understand this. The minute you go to the guy and look, he's sitting in a shop, probably 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., dealing with employees, labor at the shop. He's dealing with 10 beggars who come into the shop every day. He's dealing with the local municipality. You have to do so many things. You have to take care of everything. And tomorrow, if one guy doesn't show up for your business, you have to do his work also, right? It's not an easy life. And what is he doing it for? He's doing it so that he can take care of his family, so that he can send his children to school.
So you put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah. So when you go and when you sell that lifestyle, people will buy it. People today are doing whatever they want to get a better life. So the minute you show them that, look man, what I'm giving you is not worth 15,000. What I'm giving you is worth, it's priceless. You can't put a price on it. So 15,000, what I'm saying, you take it. I'm not going to negotiate. You go with a completely different, it changes the game. You're not playing the game on a level playing field. You're playing a very different game.
Yeah.
That changes things. And I think the most successful salespeople, including my dad, have learned this.
Who's the most successful salespeople you know?
I mean, honestly, dude, I would still go back to my dad, right?
Why?
So, because he has a knack and he's done this. You know his story.
I know very little of his story.
Yeah, so I mean,
you would introduce him to the audience because you just say your dad from the start.
So he, I mean, tough to introduce him in a short while, but
hopefully we'll get him on the show.
It will be exactly right. So you should talk to him. For those people who want to check him out, go and look up his story. His name is Rajesh Dembla. So,
it's called Dembla.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's Dembla.
Whatever. Okay. It's the name at the end of the day. So, I think from what I've seen, right from the time I've been like a small boy when we didn't have money, affording I think 20-30 rupee outing for me on a weekend when I was 2-3 years old was very difficult. To the life we're living today, he single-handedly managed to get the entire family there. So he's been through that grind, and he's really understood these things to make it work for him. So he's built these superpowers for himself, and I have learned this from him without having to go through that grind. So I think that's basically it's life's been a struggle for him, right? Nothing's come easy. Nothing's ever in life been handed to him on a platter. So anything and everything, right from I think the first spoon that he bought when they got the first house was earned bit by bit. So like we started with cutlery, and then he got enough money to buy an iron box, because there was no money to buy an iron box to iron clothes. So mom used to wash the clothes, dry it out, and then put it under the mattress and sleep.
Yeah.
And that's how he used to have presentable clothes. So then once there was enough money, they bought an iron box. Then there was enough money to buy a sofa. Then there was enough money to buy a TV, right?
Yeah.
All of that. But throughout, he ensured that my school fees is always paid. He ensured that, whatever I needed as a kid was there, taken care of, family.
You're the only son?
No, I have a sister as well.
Your eldest sister?
Younger.
Okay.
So, but that's what he did, right? He's struggled his entire life. And there were situations where his, I think, first job, the salary was 800 rupees, but the house rent was 1,200 rupees.
Oh.
So for him, one job was never enough, right? He had to find ways to make money to pay the rent. And then once you pay the rent, you have to pay for food, electricity, kids. Right? So it was always that, okay, you know what, this job is not going to give me what I need to do more. So he's never been able to sit and relax. So
that's the first thing that I thought you will share when I was like, what are the conversations? Because what is it like growing up with a dad like that?
To both my dad and mom, they never let me really
feel
the crunch. It's there in my blood somewhere. I think today it's a lot lesser, but that instinct of, oh, you know what, I'm not going to spend money on this, is there. It's very easy for me to say no, let's not do it. Let's not spend money on this, because my messaging or whatever it was when I was a baby, that's what I picked up, right? Because they were doing it. My dad and mom were doing it. Although they didn't let me feel it, I would have picked it up.
Yeah.
That, okay, there's not enough money.
So it's extremely hard to spend on yourself.
Today it's different. Of course. Like, now that I'm earning and I've got a decent amount of decent salary and things are fine, life is fine, everything is cool, I do it. But even then, right, it's like I don't cross a limit. I've never kind of bought something that I can't pay for. So it's always been like, what I buy, I can pay for it. I can afford it, that's when I buy it. But I don't go out of my way and buy it. So that's been there, which is good. It keeps you in good stead. But so that was the journey, and that's the upbringing. So it kind of is there in my blood. So I went. I used to take the BMTC bus to school. I did take BMTC bus till the first semester of my college, where people used to come in Mercs and BMWs, because CMS is the spoiled kids paradise. Right? So I used to have people coming in and
spoiled
Audi
kids paradise.
and all of it, right? And I used to go in a BMTC bus, and from
don't berate CMS so much. My 100th episode, I want Chinda sir to come.
No, but honestly, CMS is it's a fun place because it's got everything you need. They give you all the opportunities in the world you need, but it's up to you to do what you want with it.
Right.
And they're like, you want something,
and you have the drive. Most of them don't.
That's pretty much it. Right? So right from going in BMTC bus to one semester break later, I'm driving and coming in my own car. So that was
how did that switch?
So dad got me, dad was very clear that once I turn 18, he's going to get me a car, and I'm going to be driving, and I'm going to be independent. So that's all right. So small things, but both me and my sister, right from the day we turned 18, we had a car for us and we were driving. But until then, I was very happy going in BMTC bus because that gave me my independence. Right. I was not dependent on somebody to drop me or whatever. So that's how it's been. So the whole journey has been great, and they never made me believe, oh, you can't do this, you can't buy it. It's managed really well.
Wow, kudos to your parents.
Actually.
It's amazing how parents can go through so much and still have a buffer for the kid to not feel the...
And I think that's what you have to do, right? As a parent, I think it's your responsibility to bear the stress and not let the kid feel it, because it's not the kid's problem to deal with until they're old enough. So that's been it, and that's what helps me also to do that. So all of these experiences.
And why do you still say your dad's the best salesperson? What are his superpowers?
Oh, dude,
there's
nothing he cannot do.
Oh, wow.
So there have been instances where he knows how to get things done. So when life puts you through those kind of circumstances that he's been through, he's built the muscle to handle it. So he has the faith in himself to do whatever it comes, whatever it takes, and he can get it done. So, and that's where I've learned a lot of it from. So my sense of being fearless when it comes to sales, when it comes to really understanding how to connect with people, all of that kind of also comes from his experiences.
How are you fearless in sales?
Yeah, so I think most of the energy, and again I'm saying energy, but when you go to talk to somebody, right, you need to go and talk to them as an equal. It cannot be, sir, you are great, sir, please take my product, sir, right? That doesn't work. It has to be, I bring some value to the table, you bring some value to the table, let's sit and do something together and grow, right? That is when you really can do well. So I think if you're going to look at your customer as a god and you as some unworthy being who needs to sell something to make a living, it's never going to work. So I think even Dad, when things were really tough, he still went to each and every customer as an equal. So I think that's what helps you to grow, and you need to bridge that gap.
How do you do it with somebody like Dattu Mir, or who's like you rub shoulders with who's
Absolutely,
who,
right.
and how do you still end up going as an equal?
No, so look, I always and in Decentro, that's what the beauty is. Today at Decentro, we've built a product which can sell itself. I just need to be able to solution it in the right manner for them, right? Because somebody will come to me and say, Raunak, I am doing SME lending. I don't have enough documentation to document it. Can you help me? Right? What can you do in KYC to help me? Then it's a matter of me understanding, okay, this is what he needs. These APIs can be used for that.
Clear CDO.
Exactly,
I get that.
Right. So,
but how do you still go as an equal with somebody that's like...
Because I'm solving a problem.
Because you're solving a problem. That gives you like that leverage to be like, okay, where I'm at.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's one of the best things that a salesperson can do. Understand your customers so well. So, for example, there was a customer in 2021 when we were about a year old. I had already cracked a deal with a similar kind of customer. So, both of these customers were YC. Right? So, cracked a deal with this first guy. When he knew what he wanted, right? From me, he came, he took the product. I said, great, yeah, say here. You tell me one thing, why are you taking this product? Why not any other competitor? Why only Decentro? Why this product?
This is after the sale, you're asking why?
After the sale, because he was very clear about what he wanted. So the call was, hey, I need this. Do you have it? What's the price? De do, bus. So I was like, great. Customer falling in my lap. Let's do this. But why?
Why?
So when I understood, he said, yeah, we are facing certain frauds on the platform. These APIs will help me to filter them out. So I was like, great, say yeah. So this is a use case for my product. 3 months later, a company doing the similar thing comes to me and they're launching. So I give them, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. Also take this because it will help you prevent fraud. He's like, yaar, I have 800 customers on my platform. Kya fraud hoga? Fraud hoga to hone do. We'll deal with it later. He said, I don't need this right now, and he walked away from the deal. He didn't take anything. Exactly 6 months later, I get a call from the same guy saying, Raunak, you were right. What you told me will happen 6 months ago has happened to me today. I need your API now. And that's the beauty about fintech.
Right.
It's such a small world. People are not going to go away. Right? A deal that you don't get today, you will get it a year later. You will get it 2 years later, but you will get it.
Yeah.
And it's guaranteed. And that is another reason why I'm fearless, right? Because I know
Aaj nahi to kal aayega. It will come.
And the best part is I've had customers who've integrated Decentro, shifted companies, changed their jobs, integrated Decentro there.
Beautiful.
Shifted companies, a third company integrated Decentro there, started up, integrated Decentro there. So I've had a customer who's been with me in 4 companies.
Beautiful.
I've got customers who are like, yaar, पिछले वाला company में नहीं हुआ. Now I'm in this new company. I will integrate Decentro. And then the reply to them from me was, great, let's do this here, but I also closed that deal, right? And I'm not bragging. It's just the nature of the industry because it's a small space, right? So I learned...
It's such a niche product.
Yeah. And so one of my first sales calls in Decent Row, the guy who I was pitching told me a statement which offended me at that point. He said, Raunak, I have never heard about you. Fintech is such a small space. Where have you been? Or he basically said, you're not an insider. Right? Like, ये कैसे बोल सकते हैं यार? I am a founding member of Decent Row, man. I am now part of the fintech community. You can't call me an outsider. And I got very offended. And I told him, what do you mean? You think you know everybody in fintech or what? And you think, oh no, you... Today I realize he's right. Because there are only a finite number of people playing this game, right? So you do, if you spend enough time, you know everybody. And people move. So people will go from company A to B to C and we. So you do good work with them in company A, you will get company B and C coming to you because of the work you've done with company A.
Beautiful.
But if you, at the same time, you mess up, right? That also sticks. So that's what's motivating me today, that you do good work today, right? And it's compounding effect. People, there are 500, 600 product managers in fintech. Out of these 500, every year 100 will move a company. If I just do good enough work and true enough work to impress them, those 100 people will come back to me in the second company.
Yeah.
Next year, another 100 people will be there. And they will take you everywhere along because you want to work with people you know, you trust. You don't want to work with a stranger, right? So you know that Raunak and Decent Row are good partners to work with. You will work with me.
So the primary thing is just maintain these relationships and they will grow. They'll become your referral engine.
Yeah, there is no rocket science to sales in fintech, in B2B sales.
In B2B sales.
Yeah, there is no rocket science.
So one more thing and then we go full in. But how do you connect with people that you have picked up from your dad?
Again, I think it's just very, very natural to me. I mean, I know I'm not able to give you a strong enough answer, but
there's no strong enough or weak enough. It's just an answer.
So I tell you what I do. If somebody comes to me and says, hey, you know what, I have this problem statement, can you solve it? And I cannot. I tell them I can't. I'm not going to go and do a convoluted solutioning because it will break. If not today, it will break 6 months later. And I don't want to lose them. Right? I would rather not have business today with potential to have business tomorrow than have business today with potential to lose it tomorrow. So I've referred people to my competitors. And I've referred people to other companies where I have nothing to gain from it, but I've sent you to the place where I feel you will get your needs met the most relevant way. People trust me because of that. In anything I do or I say, people trust me because they know that I have their best interest at heart. There are times where I've told people, you don't need to pay me to do this work, you can do it manually. Do it manually, come back to me 6 months later when you're ready, and then you do an integration, because not everybody can do an API integration day one. Right? You don't need it. So, cool, come back to me 6 months later, right? Because again, I don't want to be hand-holding you. So, you have to be very clear about what you can do, what you cannot do, what do you want to do, and what you don't want to do, and be very open about it. So, people trust me today. So, they come to me and say, yaar, batao, iska batao, uska batao, and I'm very happy. In fact, I'll give you my competitors' numbers. Talk to them, right? Instead of you finding their number, I have it, I'll give it to you, talk to them. Because I know also that people are not, no company, if they scale, will stick to one vendor.
Oh yeah?
You will not, right? You will want the redundancy. So if not today, 6 months later, I will get in as a redundancy layer.
Right.
And then it's a matter of how my product performs before I become the primary. So the minute you have the confidence in your product, and that is what the confidence does, right? It's beautiful. Today I can walk in to a meeting with a customer and almost take a bet and ask them to find a better product than mine, and I will pay them money. Right? And some of them will go and look, some of them will not. But I can confidently tell you that I have the best product.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if you want to take it, it's up to you. If you don't want to take it, it's totally fine. But you'll not find a better product than me. You can maybe find something else, but my product is the best. So that confidence is fantastic. It's a great time to be, selling a fantastic product, but it makes a huge difference.
Coming to the person who's starting all of this up and you joined forces with, how did you find out about Decentro? How did you get to know about Rohit? You told me LinkedIn, and I'm still curious. How did this happen? How did you approach?
I think. From 2014, from the time I really came across Paytm, I have always been very, very keen to do something in fintech.
Because?
Because of, something about fintech draws me to it. Right? I love the space. I love digital payments. It's fascinating to me how you can scan a QR code and from your mobile and then money moves, and how like money moves across the world. So payments has fascinated me from more than 10 years ago. And Paytm built a very cool business. And I'm referring to their first wallet business, right? The Paytm wallet.
14, 15,
Where finding a Paytm QR code was a big deal.
Yeah.
Right? Wow, yes. So from then I've been wanting to do something in fintech. So every time I go onto LinkedIn, anybody who I found doing something in fintech, send a connect request. So I built a huge network of people, a lot of founders in fintech. All of them were on my LinkedIn, and I used to keep seeing updates. Then one day I was scrolling LinkedIn, sitting at office, and I see this post by Rohit, who I had connected with, but I had no idea I connected with him. And the post says, imagine a world where 90% of all the friction in bank integrations is done away with. What are the possibilities? If this sounds interesting to you, let's talk. I'm like, fintech, chalo, let's talk, right? And we spoke, and this is where Rohit is a superhuman guy in terms of his organization skills and all of that. He's fantastic. The way he keeps, he remembers things, or he has systems which remember things. So we connected, we spoke. I was like, great, you're building something. I didn't understand head or tails of it. Until then, I knew web development and all, but he said, Raunak, we're building APIs to do bank integrations. I was like, okay.
Going above your head.
Yeah, okay,
it's going above my head.
Okay, Rohit, cool. This sounds interesting. Let's do it. And Google, what is API? Application programming interface or something like that. I'm like, क्या करता है यार API? So I go to Google. I go to YouTube. I'm like, what does an API do? And then it's like, it's like a waiter between two servers or two systems. It just communicates. How will this waiter do banking integrations? Right? I was like, understood. So while that conversation was progressing, every day during my lunch breaks, I used to watch videos of Google Cloud on APIs, trying to understand what is an API, because if I'm going to do this, or if I'm even going to interview him, I need to know this. But in the first interview itself, or the first meeting with Rohit, I was very upfront with him. Rohit, I don't know anything about APIs, right? But I can learn. I didn't know anything about self-checkout. I could learn. I'm a fast learner, but you'll need to help me. And he was nice enough to say, don't worry, we'll help you. And Rohit always believed in hiring people from outside of their domain. And recently, after 4 years of working with Rohit, I ended up asking him this on a lunch table conversation. Like, Rohit, you always seem to hire people who are not from the same domain, whereas I tend to focus on getting somebody from the domain because I don't need to train them. Right? So today I'm optimizing for my time. I don't want to train people for 2 months. I would rather work with somebody who already knows their shit, and I just help them with 10%. And his answer was pretty surprising. He said, Raunak, people who are moving in from another industry to fintech have a very solid drive. They have a drive to learn. They will learn fast. They are ambitious, and they will pick up well. And they will outperform people who are from the industry but don't have the drive. So I'm looking at that, and it made sense to me, right? Rohit knew that I had done some amount of international sales for Southeast Asia. He wanted to set up in Singapore. This is pre-COVID. And he was like, ye banda kar dega. So a different matter that COVID happened and we started in India, but our plan was to start with Singapore first. But yeah, so that's what it is. So
yeah, it's like you crack Singapore, you crack a lot of other markets.
And then you come to India.
Right.
We are a Singapore entity coming to India, right? And so that was the deal. But anyway, so Rohit brought me on board, and that's how it started. So essentially, it was just that one LinkedIn post from Rohit that started this journey, and it's been like the most amazing growth journey so far. We've done things the right way. We've really focused on doing things in a very, very structured, organized manner. We've had Slack Premium from day one. We've had CRMs from day one. So there's no Excels running around, none of that. Everything goes on Slack. Rohit is like the most organized person I have met in my life.
Tell us more. How does he organize?
He's super organized.
And so because he's organized at the top with everybody else.
Yeah. So he has processes. So he's got a notebook, a pen and paper.
A physical notebook with pen and paper.
Nothing, no Notion, no fancy things. Physical pen and paper notebook where he writes down everything and scratches it off at the end of the day. Right?
Like a checklist.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he uses tools which help him to optimize his time. So he uses Slack really well. So every time there's a Slack message sent, so let's say I want to get some work done by you, what I'll do, I'll ping something to you and then I'll forget about it. What Rohit does is he'll ping you and then he'll save it for later. And every week he goes by and looks, or every 3 days he looks at what is saved for later, what is supposed to come back to me. And if you've not replied on that thread, he will follow up with you. Sometimes,
such a simple thing, but so
sometimes
I like it.
He will send you a message. He will also schedule a message to be sent 3 days later. Then and there. Because he knows it will not be done in 3 days and it will need a reminder.
Smart.
Same thing with email. You send an email, the first follow-up is already scheduled. So because of this, he's got a system which constantly is reminding him of what is pending. And he is able to get sales, marketing, engineering, product, customer success, operations, partnerships, all the senior people in this team, he's keeping them on their course because you know that Rohit is going to ask you what's happening here and you need to have an answer ready. So, because he is so organized. But again,
in addition to that, is there anything else he is organized, he uses to organize?
Again, it's just him. It's his nature. So, he's very diligent when it comes to this and he follows it through. I have tried it a lot. I do try it sometimes and I'm surprised sometimes and I'm like, oh damn, here you go. I went, because my nature is very different, right? When I go and follow up with people internally that, oh, I had raised this yesterday, what happened to it? Or I raised this 1 week ago, what happened? I feel amazing. Like, there you go, I didn't forget. And he does it every day. He's done it for the last 4 years and I'm sure he would have done that for many years before, but I've been working with him for 4 years and he's done it. So it's very easy to say it, right? Like,
it's very hard to implement it.
This is the secret. And I think I know it, but it's not easy to do it. It's always easy to sit on a podcast and tell you what works. But it's very difficult to implement it. Again, I think that's where my strength comes in terms of solutioning, doing sales, building relationships. It's very easy for me to sit and tell you कि यार ये CDO करो, visualize करो, understand, change the game, change the level playing field. It's very easy to say it. It comes naturally to me. So when I do it, I feel like I was superhuman. But maybe for others, it takes time to build that.
It will take time to build up, and that's where the beauty of podcast is, right? It's archived forever.
Exactly.
So people will come back. Like you and I re-listen to so many podcasts, rewatch YouTube videos.
Great podcast on B2B sales that I listened to, where the guy said, how many of you send a cold email and then follow up on those emails with 5 different emails saying, hey, did you check, blah, 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 blah. And then those campaigns just run out, right? And you don't get anything from it. What have you tried to do differently? And the guy did something which I've implemented at Decentro. He said, have you whipped out your phone, captured a 30-second video saying, hey David, Raunak here from Decentro. I want to reach out to you to talk to you about XYZ. The reason you need to talk to me about this is so and so. Please let me know when is a convenient time for us to chat. I would love to talk to you about this. Thank you. Right? And send that video in the email. Right? It's simple. What do we do? Cold email book karna hai na? Send 5 emails. Have you changed your level playing field? You've not. If 5 emails or 3 emails are not getting your response, 5 emails likely will not. So today, every time somebody sends me an email, or every time somebody signs up on Decentro, in the campaign of emails that go out to them, the second email has an introductory video, which is shot by me after listening to that podcast. So anybody who goes to Decentro's website and signs up will get a series of emails with our pipeline. So this video is there. I have now got a
separate... It's not automated, something that you do every...
No, it's automated.
Oh, it's automated, okay.
Every time we send out a cold email outreach to NBFCs, I have a separate video recorded for NBFCs specifically saying, hey, as an NBFC, this is what I can do for you.
Okay.
every time there's a campaign that goes out to insurance companies, there's a separate video that I record, right? So I'm recording videos for different categories, and it's there now, and we send it out.
Beautiful. There's a tool where you can personalize it as well.
Yeah.
Just the name, everything is also personalized.
Oh, is it?
In video, yeah.
Oh, but I'll
share with you. It's on my notes.
Yeah.
So you just record once, and then it personalizes like, hey Rohit, hey Ramesh.
Got it. Yeah.
Hey. Yeah.
But exactly, right? So
it's beautiful.
The minute you make a video, it changes the game.
Oh yeah.
Because nobody else is sending you a video pitch.
Right.
Until it becomes spammy, then you'll need to find the next one. But
yeah,
I think these are things that you can do today.
Yeah, for me, audio notes have been magical.
Yeah.
I have been sending audio notes forever now, and people love, and the open rate is really high. So even if I'm sending a broadcast message, I'm like making an audio note and sending it. Yeah.
No, absolutely, yeah. I think I would just want to. I mean, if I were to distill a lot of the things that I've learned over the last few years and kind of leave the audience with that, I think one is there are enough people out there in the world to tell you no. You should not be the one to tell you.
Yeah, find one Ramesh.
Exactly, right? Like, just think about it. You do you, and you let the world figure out what they want to do with it.
Yeah,
it's totally fine. Have no expectations. Let the world figure out what they want to do with it. Never kill your dreams yourself. Find people to do it for you, right?
And if they kill it, go to the boss. Say
Exactly, right? So don't give up. I think apart from that, people have imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
You need to get over it, and you don't know you have imposter syndrome. There was a time when I was 20 something and I was single, and I was like afraid to approach girls because I was like, what if they say no? Right? And then there was a day where I was like, okay, 5 years I've been afraid to approach and nobody said yes. What is the worst that can happen? Somebody will say yes, right? Changed my way of looking at life because I never went out and put myself out there, be it business, be it personal, whatever, because I was scared that somebody would reject me. And I kept rejecting myself. And that day I learned that, dude, nobody is going to sit and be like, Raunak ke dimag mein ye chal raha hai, let's give it to him.
Right.
But the minute you go and ask for something, people will give it to you. Right? You don't get 100% of the things you don't ask for, but you do get some part of the things that you ask for. So ask for it. Ask for help. Ask for support. Ask for guidance. Ask for whatever you need. Apart from that, I think in terms of any work that you're doing, always find what will give you a tailwind and pick that up. And that tailwind could be like what I said, right? The email, it could be solutioning, it could be network, it could be anything.
Elaborate the tailwind part.
Like you said, right? A lot of your guests have come from people who referred you. That's your tailwind.
Yeah.
Somebody who's trying to do everything on their own is not going to have that tailwind. So they will be always at a few percentage points lower achievement than you. For somebody else, the tailwind could be a great process setup. For somebody else, the tailwind could be a great product. So always have that tailwind. Gimlet has this startup podcast. Right. So in that, they interview a lot of founders, and there was a founder who did 140 pitches before a VC said yes to their idea. So every time somebody says no, for me, the way it plays out in my mind is great. There are only a certain number of no's I need to listen to more before I hit my first yes. Right? So every no today is like, great, one check done. Chalo, let's go. We are now closer to the next deal. We are now closer. So don't get disheartened by the no. I've stopped taking rejections personally. I've stopped really kind of letting it affect me. So today it's like, great, you know what? I've done my work. I've done what I had to do. We are one step closer to the next deal. As simple as that. So it becomes very easy. And again, today, 10 years later, 13 years later, if the younger Raunak would come and be like, hey, that guy shouted at me, I would have been like, what are you worried about?
Yeah, now you laugh about it.
But that day it rattled me so much. So that's what happens, right? With experience and maturity, you learn. And I think the kind of person that I have become today has been an evolution of all of these experiences with things. And the other thing that I always believe in is when I build a team, fight for your team all the time, because the manager makes a huge difference to the experience that they get. They can learn from me. So I have got a guy who came in who was not sure how to do cold calls. But today he sets up meetings for me. I just need to tell him, like for example, today we are recording on a Friday. Right? Yesterday we started calling, saying, hey folks, I'm coming to Hyderabad on Monday. And I've already got 4 meetings lined up. Right? And this guy, when he came in, he joined us in November last year. Couldn't make these calls. He was like, oh, what do I say? Now he knows exactly what has to be done. So if I'm a great manager enabling him to learn and grow, it makes a great difference for him. And that makes a big difference to me. Today I can sit back and I'm not having to worry about, hey, are my meetings set up? So, right? Because of the effort that I put in there. So always fight for your team, give them chances to grow. And really take
be the
care
Goldman
of them.
Sachs.
Yeah, take care of them. And it will pay you back. So today I can like when I'm traveling, if something comes up, I just need to give him a call and say, buddy, handle this, and I know it's handled. So from a guy who didn't know anything about fintech to today in 8 months, him being completely ready, that's my reward, right? And I'll always fight for them, give them chances, give them exposure, get them out there, because the minute they grow, it's a growth for me. So for me, it's very like my people who work with me are very, very aligned and close to my heart. So I'll always fight for them, always.
Lovely.
Until they give me a reason not to. Right? The minute somebody gives me a reason not to fight, then I'm like, okay, you know what? There are
what's like a reason to not fight? What's like a deal breaker or a trust breaker?
You have to reciprocate, because I can always extend a hand and I can help you to come up, and I can help you come up is the wrong word. I can help you to learn and grow, right? But if I don't see the same enthusiasm coming from your end, I'm not going to do it, right? I'm going to do it once or twice. But then after a while, I'm going to be like, okay, let's move on. Maybe this guy doesn't want to do this, right? I don't need to force the horse to the water. So don't
make sense.
Don't push.
So if there's a reciprocation, then you
absolutely.
Okay,
but
you take
I will
2 steps. I take 2 steps.
100%, and without regret or without feeling any negative feelings about it. I will fight for you because it's my duty. But the minute it's like, okay, you know what, it's not what he wants, cool, it's fine. Like I will, because I need him to reciprocate and I need them to grow and I need them to also kind of move forward in their life. Right? So it has to be there.
I have a few rapid fire questions before I get to the final question. 3 books you would recommend?
Well, that's a tough one. I myself am not a big bookie.
But 3 blogs or 3 podcasts
I'll tell you.
Recommend.
Actually, I answer the book question as well. I think one of the books that I'm trying to really implement is Atomic Habits. So I'm really kind of trying out that book. There's another book which is Shoe Dog, which is a very inspirational story. Aditya Kulkarni has written a book called Auth and Capture.
Sorry, what?
Okay, so Aditya Kulkarni is a payments guru.
Okay.
He worked in a lot of payment companies, understands payments in and out. He had written a blog called Auth and Capture.
Auth,
A-U-T-H.
Auth and
Capture.
Oh, right, like authenticate and capture.
Card payment lingo, right? So that blog was like, Acha, how does UPI work? How does credit card work?
Nice.
That's become a book today, and it's a fantastically simplified version of learning fintech. So, if anybody wants to learn fintech, that's your book. Other than that, I think Osborne's blog and newsletter is fantastic. If you're in the startup and fintech space, you should look at that. It's called This Week in Fintech.
Paid? Free?
No, it's free.
Free, okay.
And there are a lot of these other paid ones that I don't really read because there's an overflow of information today, right? You really need to keep it simple. Other than that, if you really want to understand more about fintech, Fintech Quotient is your place, because we are going to be doing a lot of work on bringing content to you. Then apart from that, I think there are a couple of lot of episodes of podcasts that are very, very fantastic.
Okay.
Which are not necessarily related to fintech or startups, but it's great when it comes to how do you understand biology, why is my body responding a certain way, things like that, where I kind of helps me broaden my horizons
Yeah.
But you can always go out, and Mel Robbins has fantastic podcasts, and listening to her is a pleasure. You'll never get bored listening to her. So these are things that keep me, I would say, entertained.
Nice. Any movie you'd recommend?
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
Not at all a movie
Not
person.
at all. I've now got, I think, I can't sit and watch movies. If I sit and watch one movie in a month, I'm done.
No
series, no movies, no entertainment.
Networking and events. Any conference, any event you recommend founders to go to in Bangalore, in India?
Oh, in India, I think Global Fintech Festival is coming up. It's the biggest mela of fintech. So if you're doing anything remotely close to fintech, I think you should be there. Apart from that, personally, I have kind of taken a backseat from attending events today because bandwidth is a little crunched. But I used to attend Startup Saturday.
Head Start.
I think it's now back.
Yeah.
And that was also one great networking tool for me. And this was way back in 2015 and 16 when I used to attend Startup Saturday. And I wanted to volunteer for Head Start, but that didn't kind of work out for some reason. I don't remember. And apart from that, I think there are so many events today happening. Each Eye is organizing events. And Jatin has events lined up literally every other day.
Yeah.
HSR Founders Club has a lot of events happening in HSR. So I think just put yourself out there.
Yeah.
The more people you meet, the more connections you make. And in fact, like just last night, I was chatting with a guy I met in TechSparks 2017.
This TechSparks coming again next month.
Next month.
Yeah.
So just imagine, right?
Unusual.
TechSparks 2017. And this guy was sitting next to me in the conference, like we were sitting next to each other, and we are still in touch.
Wow. Unbelievable, right? How? Yeah. What's the most recent thing you've bought under 10,000 rupees that's been really interesting?
So I'm actually looking to buy it.
Okay.
I'll tell you. So Apple launched this continuity camera mount for the phone. To attach your phone to the laptop. So what that does is it converts your iPhone camera to your webcam.
But that's already there, right? You have connected cam already.
No, connected cam works.
Connected cam is already that's running on connected cam.
Exactly. But there's a mount that helps you to hook it up to your Mac.
Oh.
So you don't need a separate stand for it. It's a MagSafe which connects to the phone and hooks up to. So your video quality on video calls and podcasts go up drastically. So like we've got this setup here. So what I do is I prop up that tripod behind
Is it in the market already?
It's there. It's $3.5K on Amazon.
What's it called?
Belkin continuity.
It's a third party.
Yeah, Belkins.
Okay.
So that's.
Thank you.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like your video calls, because your Mac video quality, especially when the light is low, is pretty bad. So when I'm doing my video calls late in the night or when it's dark, that really makes a big difference. The other difference is the cameras can focus on your on the laptop's keyboard or the desk around you, and you can draw stuff and they can see it. So it's fun.
Yeah. Very Iron Man-ish.
Yeah, so it's good. $3.5K is a little too expensive. There are cheaper versions of it for $1,000 as well. But I'm scared to prop it up because if the phone falls, the damage is more. But yeah, Belkin has a good one for $3.5K.
Thanks. Yeah, that's a good recommendation. I can check out. I can totally upgrade the MacBook. I can put
exactly, right. So so basically the 3 cameras or 2 cameras or 1 camera will just
prop up.
It just looks at you and it gives you
beautiful
1080p video.
Nice.
Instead of a 720p. Yeah,
that's awesome. How can they reach out to you before the final question?
So I'm available on LinkedIn, Raunak Dembla. That's where you'll find me the most active. Although the algorithm is killing reach today, it's painful to see how it's going. But LinkedIn is the place. I'm there on Twitter as well. Same name, Raunak Dembla.
Interesting. Final question. What impact do you seek to make with Decentro?
So, with Decentro, I think the biggest reason that I connected with the company was we tried in my journey with my dad to launch a prepaid foreign exchange card to enable Indian travelers to go abroad and swipe cards. It took us, I think, 15 months to get to a point where we said, dude, this is not happening, and we canned the project. So it's personally impacted me because banking integrations are very lengthy, and time consuming and difficult for an outsider to navigate. We want to be able to have infrastructure ready to deploy to help people launch their companies without having to spend that kind of time. So I think for us, the impact is very clear. That is what we started off with in 2020. As of today, I think it's become very clear that a lot of the things that we're doing is becoming commoditized. There are enough companies coming in and trying to do the same thing. I think what really motivates us to do is build a product that is not there in the market today. Of course, there's regulation, so there's only so much you can do to innovate, but you essentially want to build a product that gives them so much value add that you take a normal everyday product and convert it into a super powerful product for them. And that impact for us is what we really live for today. So today when I look at somebody coming to me saying that, Raunak, I have a 40% journey completion rate, and by using Decentro I'm able to take it to 75%, that is fantastic for us. Because that means that there's a 35% delta in number of people who could get loans. There's a 35% delta in the kind of business that they could make in terms of the number. It contributes to the overall economy for us.
The filter becomes bigger.
Yeah.
So
So I'm able to make things a little more effective, and that is very, very powerful. We're able to help people collect their outstanding debts in the market. We're able to help people collect money in a better manner. And our DNA is very simple. We want to be smart and effective. So I know that I cannot come with a brand new way of doing KYC today in India because we have to play within the bounds of regulation. But I know that I can also convert what's available in the market to make it really smart. And that's exciting for us.
Beautiful. It was a pleasure talking to you. We had a blast. I'm glad you chose to do this at such a short notice.
No, absolutely. It's always, I think, it's an honor for a person to come in and contribute to this podcast because you've got such stellar names on the podcast. And it's amazing that you've been able to achieve so much in such a short period of time. And looking forward to 100 5-star reviews very soon.
Yeah, inshallah. On that note, go and make some Galata. Thank you.